How to turn questions into appointments. As a chiropractic assistant, you represent your doctor's office, and to a degree, you even represent chiropractic to many of your doctor's patients and prospective patients. On the telephone, in the reception room, at your hairdressers, at social gatherings, or even in the supermarket, you will be asked many questions concerning your doctor, his office, and chiropractic in general. In this record on how to turn questions into appointments, we will cover some of the questions most frequently asked, especially on the telephone, and the answers in the form of command phrases and key chiropractic words that you should have for them. Probably the number one question you will hear most often is, how much does the doctor charge? Your immediate answer to this should be, there is no charge, and then pause, for the consultation of the first visit. This consultation is to determine whether or not you seem to be a chiropractic patient, where the cause of your trouble might be, and what should be done about it. Now, you don't quote fees over the telephone except in certain instances, as we will explain later in this record. The reason is that in a case of this kind, you are trying to change the prospective patient's thinking from how much it costs to whether or not he seems to be a chiropractic patient. The idea here is to learn to control the conversation by always staying on the offensive. Should you be questioned beyond a reasonable length of time and feel you are on the defensive, you may quickly regain the controlling position by starting to ask questions yourself, which will soon lead the prospective patient to think perhaps your doctor might not even be able or eager to have him come in, since your doctor might not be able to accept his particular case. Use a sentence or two of this nature to put you back in the driver's seat. With this procedure, however, make sure you are a graduate CA from the Parker Chiropractic Research Foundation, where these particular techniques are explored, explained, and demonstrated very carefully. Now, should the caller plunge right into the money question without other conversation, you should say almost immediately, but very kindly, "With whom am I speaking, please?" And then, "Who referred you to Dr. Parker, Mr. Jones?" You see, getting the name of the referral gives you a common ground on which to talk with the patient. You may mention the results received by the patient who referred the caller to your doctor. Or you may mention something else concerning the referral, which will start the conversational ball rolling and get the trend of thought off the money question, at least temporarily. Or if you are a graduate CA or feel otherwise qualified, you might say to a rather insistent patient, "By the way, you haven't had surgery for this condition, have you?" If the caller answers no, you can then follow with, "Oh, that's fine, because Dr. Parker sometimes refuses patients with conditions such as yours if they have had spinal surgery." If the patient answers yes, you could say, "I see, then I can make an appointment for you to see Dr. Parker for a consultation. Then he can determine whether yours is a chiropractic case." After you have asked questions, placing yourself back in control, you can refer to the original question of charges with statements such as, "During the consultation, Mr. Jones, Dr. Parker will make a complete record of your symptoms so he can review them all together after he gets a complete summary of your condition. Then he may possibly make a preliminary spine and nerve examination to determine whether you have conditions which chiropractic treats effectively." In some cases, when the patient definitely seems to fear the unknown, you could continue, "The consultation and preliminary examination are made without charge, Mr. Jones, for this makes it possible for Dr. Parker to determine whether you should pursue chiropractic methods further." This procedure enables Dr. Parker to eliminate in the beginning those cases which he feels he cannot help, and do it quickly and without charge to new patients. These command phrases and key chiropractic words help to rid the patient of fear of the unknown and make him realize that his money is not likely to be thrown away if he is not a chiropractic case. Question number 2 is often, "How much does he charge for each adjustment?" And you should answer, "That depends upon the type and amount of adjustments needed in your particular case." If the patient brings up the money question a second time, it is permissible to give a fee range, such as examination and x-rays range from $5 to $65 and adjustments range from $3 to $6. If the caller's persistence about fees reveals that the money question is of utmost importance to him, it is advisable to handle it along these lines. Dr. Parker's fees for office calls range from $3 to $6 depending upon your exact needs. If X-rays are needed, their cost will depend upon the type and number. In any event, their cost will be in line with or perhaps lower than those charged by other doctors, hospitals, or X-ray laboratories. If the patient pursues the money subject further or states that he only has a crick in his neck, hurt his back a little yesterday, or has some other minor acute condition and insists upon a fee, you may say, Dr. Parker charges a moderate fee for a moderate condition. Or, I'm sure you will find Dr. Parker's fees are in line with those of other doctors in this area. If Mrs. Jones tells you she is considering making an appointment, but is just afraid that the doctor can't help her and she can't afford to waste her money, you might say something like, now don't let that worry you, Mrs. Jones. Dr. Parker absolutely does not accept any patient for treatment for a condition which he feels he cannot help. The consultation without charge is to determine if your case is similar to others who have responded to his methods of treatment. Dr. Parker does not accept everyone for a patient, but he certainly does help almost every patient he accepts. Now, all of these command phrases and key chiropractic words are to be made with friendliness and helpfulness in your voice, never with a cold air of efficiency or an abrupt attitude. Nothing will turn a patient away as fast as a snippy attitude from the CA. You never want to assume any chip on the shoulder or indifferent attitude or false importance. Just be understanding and sweet and kind. After any fee discussions have been satisfactorily handled, then follow with suggestions for an appointment. You might say, for example, you seem a bit uncertain, Mr. Jones, as to whether or not chiropractic can help you. The consultation without charge is for the purpose of allowing you and Dr. Parker to decide the answer to that question. If you would like an appointment for this consultation, Dr. Parker can see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. or 4:30 tomorrow afternoon. Which time would be more convenient for you? This is offering something or something, and chances are the appointment will be made. You will be asked quite often, can Dr. Parker cure headaches or other common conditions? Answer with pleasant enthusiasm, well, yes, indeed, Dr. Parker, or chiropractic, has been very successful in curing many cases of headaches. Now pause for a second or two and then continue with, but in your particular case, it will be necessary, of course, for you to come into the office so Dr. Parker may determine where your trouble might be and what should be done about it. Dr. Parker can see you for an appointment at 4 this afternoon or 10 tomorrow morning. Which time would you prefer? Or you could say instead, of course it's impossible to tell you over the telephone whether or not yours would be a chiropractic case. From what you described to me, it sounds very much as though you would respond quickly to chiropractic care, as others have with similar conditions. I'll be happy to set aside time for an appointment to determine whether or not you have a condition that may be corrected with chiropractic care. The reason, you see, that Dr. Parker provides a preliminary consultation without charge is that he accepts only patients he can help. In this office, we are concerned with two things, your health and our reputation. Dr. Parker never accepts a patient or protect both of these principles. Dr. Parker doesn't accept all cases, but he certainly helps almost all he accepts. This last sentence carries a real punch and should be used whenever a prospective patient seems to be hesitant about coming in or perhaps distrustful. By the way, remember never to let any negative failures you may occasionally see in your office overrule the many positive successes you see every day. If you do, you cannot say these command phrases and key chiropractic words with firmness, with certainty, and with conviction. When asked questions regarding what chiropractic can do for certain conditions, learn to state with bubbling enthusiasm the absolute positive end results which the patient is hopeful of achieving, and then later qualify with ifs, ands, and buts. One of the most valuable ways of explaining chiropractic service is by using what we call in the Parker School of Practice Building pathy as a method of creating desire. Now, pathy is the abbreviation for parallels, analogies, twins, hypotheses, illustrations, and examples. Pathy. Hereafter, when asked about consultation, examination cost, treatment cost, results, or time necessary, simply use the principles of pathy, using them always in the positive. You might tell a short 2-minute story of another similar case which ended very successfully. And if a patient begins to feel depressed because he doesn't feel he's improving, or when a budget-minded housewife decides she only needs one adjustment a week when she definitely needs more, pathy can come to your rescue. You could say, for example, restoring health is like restoring a withered, dried-up plant that has been through a drought. You don't put water on a withered plant tonight and expect it to have lush green foliage tomorrow. You don't expect it to burst into full bloom the next day. It takes time for nature's healing processes to work when disease has been dominant a long time. Just be patient, Mr. Jones. From all indications, Dr. Parker feels your nerves are responding well, and he feels you'll notice improvement soon. To the budget-minded housewife, you could say, Mrs. Jones, when we make a dress, we stitch the seams all the way down and reinforce them at points of stress, don't we? Otherwise, they might rip out about the second time we wear the dress. Continuing chiropractic care until your spine is properly aligned in the right position and the muscles are strong enough to hold it there will make it wear longer and possibly prevent frequent repairs later on. The idea here, CA, is that it is very important for you to get the pathy habit. Go over different analogies until they come naturally and automatically into your thoughts and into your conversation with patients. Make your own analogies and examples and fit them to the understanding of your doctor's patients. For many, many times a patient will talk to you about his condition even before he goes in to see the doctor. You can be a valuable mind conditioner, and this service can be one of the most important in your work. Some prospective patients will ask, how do you know whether or not I am a chiropractic patient? Your answer can be, whether or not you seem to be a chiropractic patient will be determined by Dr. Parker after your consultation and preliminary examination. Many times it depends upon, and now you may cite some of the following: the type of your illness, the length of your illness, your age, the severity of any pathological complications, the past treatments you have had, any surgery you may have had, any hereditary possibilities, any spinal distortion, or, most important, the amount of spinal nerve stress, strain, irritation, blockage, or pressure you may have. If you give the impression on the telephone, in person, or at any other time during the first few visits of a patient that chiropractic is a cure-all and can help any and all conditions, the patient naturally is not going to believe anything else you may say. In your proper procedure, you must embody statements that are believable and that the patient can accept. As mentioned before, the fact that Dr. Parker does not accept all cases, but he certainly does help almost all he accepts, makes the patient realize that you aren't trying to sell him a bill of goods, so to speak, or that chiropractic is a panacea and all of the forms of healing are completely wrong and even dangerous. If you go that far, you may lose any confidence the patient may have felt in the merits of chiropractic, which prompted his inquiry in the first place. You can be enthusiastic, and you should be, but keep your statements believable and professional. Sometimes a patient will ask, what kind of treatments does he give? Always qualify here by saying, that depends upon Dr. Parker's findings after examination. What methods have helped you the most? A question like this, you see, probably indicates the caller knows something about techniques. Thus, a question from you to take the temperature is valuable here. Or you may be asked, what kind of cases does he handle? Reply, Of the many types of complaints which have responded so beautifully to chiropractic care, the three types that I have seen most often since I have worked for Dr. Parker, and which usually receive up to 100% results, are backaches, headaches, and nervousness. Of course, you could mention other conditions if you choose at this point. Then continue by saying, however, since chiropractic works with the spine and nerves of the body, many other conditions are also treated very effectively through chiropractic care. Why, since I've been working for Dr. Parker, I have seen a patient with a very severe heart condition respond tremendously to chiropractic adjustments, and today he lives a very normal life, and medication is no longer necessary. You may be sure that he is thankful that he tried chiropractic. Also, you can use pathy at this point and give actual examples of the response you have seen. Your enthusiasm and sincerity will project an attitude of confidence into a prospective patient. Here is another question that will come up sometimes. Does the doctor use physiotherapy? If your doctor uses physiotherapy, then simply say, yes, he does. If he does not use physiotherapy, or some other technique or system about which the patient inquires, you might say, no, he doesn't, because Dr. Parker prefers to eliminate the need for such treatment by restoring natural health through modern chiropractic care. He uses other methods with equal or superior results. Or you could say, Dr. Parker does everything necessary to help restore your health based upon what he discovers in his examination. A few prospective patients might ask, is the doctor a Palmer graduate? Or a graduate of some other college, of course. Now, there are several ways this may be answered depending upon the individual case. You may say, yes, he is. Do you like Palmer methods? Or, Dr. Parker's a graduate of another fine chiropractic college. Do you like Palmer methods? You see, this takes the temperature. Or, Dr. Parker has done graduate study in this technique and handles cases requiring it. If this works best for you, I'm certain Dr. Parker will proceed accordingly. We can arrange for you to discuss this with Dr. Parker if you like. Which time would be more convenient for you, 10 a.m. or 2 this afternoon? When you answer either, yes, do you like Palmer methods, or no, do you like Palmer methods, the patient will reply either, yes, I do, or no, I don't. You can then continue your response in either case with, I understand, or I see what seems to be your trouble. Learn to use the phrase, I see, or I understand, at the beginning of the answers to questions. And, if you are a graduate CA, sometimes, what seems to be your trouble, at the end. In this way, you invite the patient to talk about that which he most prefers to discuss, his own condition. Some patients will be willing and even eager to discuss their conditions with you, and you can get some good information to give to the doctor before he meets the patient. However, some patients feel that a receptionist or a CA is not qualified to discuss health conditions, and they may feel it is a private matter to be discussed only with the doctor. You will be able to feel this attitude immediately, so quickly say, Dr. Parker will be happy to discuss this with you. There is no charge for the consultation, and we have an opening for an appointment at 11 o'clock this morning or 4 this afternoon. Which time would be more convenient for you? If a patient seems actually to enjoy elaborating on his condition, then do not encourage him to do so in great detail, as patients sometimes will. Listen to him courteously for a bit, but if he continues to wander on with unnecessary information, say, I see, or I understand, why don't you come in to see Dr. Parker for a consultation? There is no charge for the consultation, and Dr. Parker can then determine if yours seems to be a chiropractic case. He can answer your questions at that time. We can give you an appointment for 11 this morning or 3 this afternoon. Which time do you prefer? Of course, it goes without saying that, since you are not the doctor, you will never attempt to diagnose or give information which should come directly from the doctor. Concentrate on being friendly and helpful and simply making it inviting for the patient to come into the office. The question, do I have to be x-rayed, will come up quite often. You might simply say, that depends upon Dr. Parker's findings after the consultation. Some do, some don't. And finally, when they ask the delightful question, "When may I have an appointment to come in?" you may ask, "Do you prefer an appointment today or tomorrow?" "I'd like one tomorrow." "We can give you an appointment at 10 in the morning or 4 tomorrow afternoon. Which time do you prefer?" Learn always to ask which, not if. If creates a doubt. Always give an alternate time, since the object is to get the patient in sooner or later. Provide something or something, never something or nothing. Never say, "When do you want to come in?" If the patient states that he is unable to fulfill either proposed time, you should then say, "When is the most convenient time for you, Mr. Jones?" When the patient answers, check your appointment book, holding the patient for a half a minute on the telephone. Then return to the line and say, "Mr. Jones, I'll tell you what let's do. You come in at 5:30 and we will arrange time for you then." The information that should be obtained from the caller when making an appointment is the patient's name, always making sure of spelling and pronunciation, the patient's address, the patient's telephone number. Record the nature of the patient's complaint if it has been obtained without difficulty during the telephone conversation, and the name of the person who referred him to the doctor. As the telephone conversation is ended, you should close it by saying, "We will see you tomorrow at 3:30, Mr. Jones. Goodbye." This confirms the appointment time and impresses it upon the caller's mind. So there, CA, are some of the questions which may confront you daily. Proper procedure not only includes proper office procedure, accurate bookkeeping and the like, but also the proper handling of patients with command phrases and key chiropractic words. Words are convincing, persuasive, and inviting. You know, CA, advertising is a multi-million-dollar business that owes its very existence to the use of command phrases and key words of various kinds. Words have tremendous power, and the skillful use of them in communication can mean the difference between success and failure in any profession or in any business. They are most important to you, CA, because sometimes your phrases and words can make the difference between winning a patient to your doctor's office or perhaps losing him to chiropractic forever. Thus, his very health, yes, even his life, may depend upon your command phrases and key chiropractic words. To a degree, chiropractic practices, as well as everything else, succeed because we use convincing language. You must convince a prospective patient, or you may never get him into the office in the first place. So listen to this record over and over again until the command phrases and the key chiropractic words become a normal and natural part of your vocabulary. Remember, office procedure is a science, and you, CA, are your doctor's very important sales lady. By following these procedures as outlined, you will certainly turn many questions into appointments.